Hello everybody, it's me, Kenneth Bock. Welcome to the show. I haven't got a name for the show yet.
How fab! Great start.
we were going to call it Psychic Ability Explained, but anyway, it's called The Show. I'm here with the lovely Amanda Roberts.
Thank you.
Who is a psychic intuitive medium.
Yeah.
And in many labels, who does many different therapies, and also my teacher at the College of Psychic Studies, where she teaches. And today really is the start of a series where I will be interviewing psychics, intuitives, and mediums, and kind of like talking to them about what they do and what is psychic ability. You know, how does it help us in our daily lives, and also how we can harness and train this activity or this ability. So, Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very honoured to be your first person. Thank you very much.
So let's start very generally.
Okay.
What's psychic ability?
Well, psychic ability is one of the most natural things in the world because it's our intuition. It's that gut feeling we get. It's that kind of inner knowing. Which doesn't make necessarily logical scientific sense. But we learn to trust it, and we learn that we learn to follow it in a way.
Yeah.
I think. So it's that sixth sense that is talked about a lot,
yeah,
that people are nervous of, that a lot of people may think they shouldn't trust for different reasons, but that people, when they're in that flow, know they can trust, and that it helps them on a day-to-day level to live their life.
Yeah.
And make it easier.
And this comes in a variety of ways, right? I mean, we talk about the different psychic modalities like clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, and even dreams. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about how these impulses come to us.
We can start to kind of understand that the way we get our information is through a different way. So let's talk about, because not everyone will know what they are. So clairvoyant, which is kind of like a big label that lots of people know, is when, as the psychic, you see. Okay, so you may see objectively, which is like I'm seeing you now. So I may see spirit like that. In a mediumship I do. Or you may see in your inner eye, which is kind of the most common way. And sometimes you can see into other dimensions that are happening around us. Obviously the claircognizant is the most common. That is when we know.
Yeah.
We just understand, we trust. We have clairaudient, which is when we hear. Again, it can be external like you, or it can be a voice in our head. Mm-hmm. And then of course we need to learn to train when is it ego, and when kind of can we trust it. Clairsentient is when we feel in our body, and we all kind of feel that, don't we? You know, people talk about the butterflies in the stomach, or stomach feeling hard, or we get these sensations in our bodies which kind of tell us lots of information.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned ego, because you know, here it would be good to kind of go into we were talking before this interview about spirituality and psychic ability and intuitive ability. And very often, you know, psychic ability can be just a technical thing, but it's very important to use it in guidance with you know, in my path, I'm a Course in Miracles student, and for me, it's the Holy Spirit. You know, using it with guidance of the Holy Spirit. So tell us a little bit about why you think it's important to have that grounding, and what kind of practices do you do?
Well, as you know, as one of my students, I come from a very practical, down-to-earth, grounded, centered approach, which is very important. You know, we don't want to be airy-fairy, which is how the psychic world has often been seen. I remember when I first started training, you know, my teacher was so proud because, you know, everybody thinks you're a bit weird, and people quite liked it. And I thought, no, it's normal. You know, this is actually, you know, a part of who we all are if we can access it or aren't frightened of accessing it.
Yeah.
Losing the thread. Losing the thread. So what I think is that it's very important when we use it that we have integrity, that we kind of come from a very grounded, centered place, because otherwise we could just pick up all sorts of kind of other messages from kind of like not very kind of clear space.
Yeah.
And you know, people, one of the reasons it's important to train is it's very important how you deliver things, what you say.
Yeah.
And also it's very important to be grounded, because you know there's the saying, as above so below, meaning we can create heaven on earth. You know, we have come here as physical beings to express being physical, so actually, you know, being very clearly rooted, grounded, being very centered in a hara or the Tantien, as martial arts experts call it, is very important. And the more kind of grounded and centered we are, the clearer the messages can be.
Yeah.
And the easier it is to connect, and to kind of connect with that. And I think it's very clear that people need the intention, that it needs to be done kind of with integrity and kind of with a purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's one of the most important things to say about this you know, psychic ability, intuitive ability, is the question, what is it used for? And you know, in the college where I've seen a very high quality of you know, this kind of work being done, it's really under the umbrella of healing, isn't it? I mean, I know healing means different things to you because you are an energy healer.
Yeah.
Right. But we're really talking about, let's say if you're with a client whose mother just passed away, right?
Okay.
And say you're doing mediumship, and the mother comes in, and you can relay things to this lady from the mother. So somewhere in there's a healing process going on, because you're helping closure, right? So I'm really talking about more of a psychological kind of healing level.
Well, yes. I mean, well, yes. No, because when people come for readings, mediumship, which is what you're talking about, which is specifically when someone who's passed over comes through, or else they may just be wanting general guidance, and often it's a mixture that people want. And under the general guidance is often affirmation or confirmation of what people know. And sometimes it can be quite tough messages.
Yeah.
You know, I've had people who probably discovered the night before, who'd wanted to see me earlier but couldn't, that their boyfriend was back on heroin again. So, you know, it's you know, how do you deal with that? And I always want to kind of, I ask that messages come through with love, with compassion. And actually she could cope with it. But if she'd come earlier when she wanted to, of course, she wouldn't have coped with it. But certainly for mediumship, death can be very messy. There can be suicides. People have mistresses, gambling, the house is lost, all sorts of things that people discover. And when the people come through, it can really assist with the healing of that, to help people move on from being stuck. We can have the other extreme where people become addicted to it, and then it's kind of once again up to us who are working with it to be kind of quite clear, look, you know, it's not good to keep communicating. When people move to the other side, they move on to a new adventure. So they need to be released as well to be able to continue that.
Yeah. So actually, you know, the other thing which I wanted to talk about is discernment, because I think in your work it's extremely important to have that level of discernment, you know, with the client first of all, and also with I guess with different entities. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Discernment's really important, because, you know, one of the things when students first start is, oh, I think I'm making it up. So it's about really learning to know, to trust, and to know when it's the ego. So I think it's important we discuss the ego.
Yeah.
That when we speak, the ego tends to be I. Okay? It's all about I and me, as against us, we, coming out. So it's very much, it can feel uncomfortable. The ego is often, people always think the ego is like, I'm the best. Actually, the ego is the voice that says to you, you're not good enough, you can't do something, you know, don't go to that party, no one will talk to you. That's the ego. Spirit doesn't come through with messages like that. Even when Spirit has quite strong messages, it's done kind of with the love and compassion, whereas the ego doesn't a lot of the time, as you know. And in A Course in Miracles, of course, it's that distinguishing, isn't it, between when we're kind of with spirit, which we are spirit, we are spiritual beings, so that's very important, and when it's that kind of inner voice, which is what causes separation, which of course is the cause of all suffering, in a way. I'm moving off the subject here.
No, I think it's... I mean, again, the ego is that nagging voice in our head.
Yeah.
That is the cause of all suffering, really, because it tells us, you know, it is separate from
Source.
the oneness,
Yeah.
right, from source,
Yeah.
and it's, you know, constantly holding us back from remembering who we really are, which is perfect love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to carry on from that, separation that is very important. People don't realise separation really is the cause of all suffering. And by that we mean separation from self. I mean, you know, I just actually finished with a client today who I've done a few sessions with, and her kind of final thing is it's the first time she's felt integrated in her life. Because a lot of us do feel separate from ourselves. So it's separation from self, from other people, which is loneliness, and all the kind of fear-based emotions. And of course, mainly separation from source. And, you know, we are in spirit. We are in source. No, we are here already.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's about kind of recognising it. I always kind of give the example, if you had Aborigine, because people think, how does it relate physically, suffering? Well, if you are Aboriginals in the kind of Australian desert, you don't die of thirst. You know where to get the water, how to get the water. You are one with the land. It's no separation, whereas if you and me got stuck there, we'd have to do some serious work, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
To kind of, you know, that would really test that whole kind of separation.
Out of tune with the greater...
I mean, they also know the skills, but it is about kind of being in tune, and the West is very much about separation. The monolithic religions are very much about separation, because, you know, before the monolithic religions, and what we have a lot of is the kind of tribalism, the animism, the shamanic, which are all based on the spirit and the rock, the tree, you know. So it's that we are all one, we are all part of it, we must respect it all. And the reality is we need to get back there, you know, and to understand that.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Amanda, we haven't talked about spirit guides, which is something that I wanted to talk about, because I think it's actually very important. And this is my understanding, that spirit guides really are linked to spirit, Holy Spirit. They are, in many instances, specific representations of spirit with a big S. And, you know, for me, working with my guides has been tremendously helpful, and especially taking your courses.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, first of all, tell us a little bit about spirit guides, and you know, what is it that they do
and what they are.
Yeah.
So spirit guides are those who have passed over. They normally belong to our own soul group. We all have soul groups, and we all know when we meet people who are our soulmates. We have many of them, most of us. And other people we instantly recognise. They can also be the people we clash with. You know, it's not only positive. And when they pass over, one of their roles is to kind of raise our awareness and our spiritual awareness. And so the spirit guides are here to guide us on lots of kind of different levels. I mean, they can help with buying a car. You want a mechanic, you know, if you're going to buy a car from the spirit world. But our main spirit guides are kind of here to kind of guide and assist us. And, you know, their main focus on that level is spiritual, of course. But, you know, we have spirit guide, we have parking guides. Everyone talks parking angels or parking guides. You know, but
I don't have a car, so I don't have a parking guide. I need to get a car.
Or parking angels, it's often said. But, you know, it's about higher beings who are there to kind of guide and assist us. So if you know anyone who's going to hospital for an operation, you want the person on the other side who's the best surgeon to kind of come through and to guide and assist the surgeon doing the operation. You know, and we can request this. It's like, spirit guides are like middlemen. And in life we use middlemen. You know, I like my coffee in the morning. I don't go off to Columbia, pick it, grind it, you know, I bring it in. And so the spirit guides are kind of an easy, accessible way for us to find that communication to assist us within our lives.
Yeah, and also because, I mean, for me personally, again, as you said, spirit guides are those who, well, for me, it's a great help to have someone or to have an entity or my guides tell me something that is of a different perspective.
Yeah.
And usually the information that comes through from my guides is something that I would have never thought of before.
Yeah.
And it would be like, wow, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
And it kind of, it's, you know, it's additional information, if you will. It helps you see things from a different angle.
Yeah, and it helps you see things not from separation, but from oneness. And I think, you know, that's the thing, that the guides are trying to kind of bring us and let us understand that we're spiritual beings within this physical world. That you know, the view that we should take is not about poor little me or victim or suffering or anger or whatever, but actually about how we can contribute within kind of what we do. And I think their perspective is often from that wider range, which is kind of one of the ways to know, is this from spirit or is this my little ego saying? And that doesn't mean they can't help you, you know, with work or kind of like very practical decisions, but it's kind of done in a way that will make your life easier, but will probably make others easier as well.
Yes, and at the same time, they don't rob you of your spiritual lessons, because that's extremely important as well.
No, they can't. They cannot interfere. And I'll talk about angels in a moment. Actually, they can't interfere if you're supposed to experience something. One also, as you know, I work with angels a lot. Angels generally being beings who have not had a physical existence. So I guess you could think of them, as I said to someone who had a big problem with that yesterday, think of them as extraterrestrial. And they had no problem with that.
Which is a different topic, which I'd love to talk about as well.
Yeah, but angels are in a way, aren't they? If you think about it, because if they haven't had physical existence, then, you know, they are. And angels are known as being the closest to source.
Well, then they would be extra-dimensional.
Oh, yeah, they are extra-dimensional. Yeah, very much so. Extra-dimensional. Working within the multiverse, as we like to call it. You know, the many universes.
So how do people get in touch with their guides? At least, how would you, so say someone who's had very little experience with this, with development, how would you advise people out there, you know, to start forming this relationship, if you will, with their guides?
Well, I mean, I would obviously suggest that if you can find a class or course near you, that's often the best way, because when we develop together in circles, which is the traditional way of psychic and spiritual development of most of the sorts, not divination, obviously, which is things like palmistry and tarot, but of others like trance, mediumship, psychic development, including the spirit guides, because actually the energy is greater, so we kind of connect more. But if you're kind of at home, or lots of people don't have access to that, it's about kind of really, I would say one thing that's very important is 3 to 5 minutes of meditation a day. I mean, that can transform someone's life, but to do it from a very grounded, centered position. And it's about kind of bringing the light of spirit down through us and the earth energy up. And kind of like feeling very calm and centered, and then to just speak to your guides. And also start to speak and communicate when you're doing things. Because it's like you can have another relationship or friendship, but just on another dimension. Yeah. And the way guides can communicate may not be the same as us, obviously. You know, we often can get symbols. Think of all the miscommunication that can happen between people. So sometimes, you know, you may not get it right, but they do their best to make what they want to say to as clear as possible. And one of the things is learning what maybe their symbols mean. And it can be things like a song may come on the radio. We're coming back to your original question here, aren't we? And the song can have quite...
It's cool. It's cool. It's entertaining.
And the song can have quite, you know, a big impact for you. Or you said about dreams. I also run a small charity. And the woman who does very part-time administration, she's a screenwriter, she had had a dream about winning money. and she did win some money. She has a bond, what are they called, those bonds that people get from the post office.
Right.
And the day after or 2 days after, she did. So that was kind of a very prophetic dream. But they can also kind of lead us to understanding other things within our life.
Yeah.
So there can be so many ways, and our environment talks to us. And I guess the more we become in tune with it, which meditation assists with, it gets us centered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being grounded and centered is important.
Yeah.
Because then we become more aware of what's happening around us. And for a simple meditation, I think just that the classic one of following the breath.
Yeah.
And every time your mind wanders into what I call the shopping list, what you should be doing, or you just bring your mind back. And I think what's important is for people to really learn to have love and compassion for themselves as well. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, it's like, I came to all of this from, I guess I don't think I had many experiences in my childhood, which were very psychic. So, learning to speak to my guides as if they were real people, at first it started, I felt like I was going crazy. But you start to have things in your experience, like messages pop up in your head that you begin to, it's very difficult to describe.
Oh, you take notice, don't you? And it makes your life easier. It's like the weatherman says it's going to be brilliant sunshine all day, and you walk out the door and the guides go, umbrella. And it might be a picture umbrella, it might be the word umbrella, however they do.
Yeah.
You learn to go back and get that umbrella, because if you don't, you're going to get wet. And that's a very simple example.
Yeah.
And I think it's also about learning to come from our head to our heart. An example of that I had in my life, which is another simple one, is a friend of mine years ago when I didn't have any money. I lived in a different place. And I had a threadbare carpet, and she kind of offered me her lush carpet. She lives in a very nice house, and she was redoing it all. So I said, oh yes, please. But the trouble I had trying to get a van at the right time, there's loads of places you can get vans around here. I couldn't get a van that were the right size, couldn't be on the right day. And I kind of came home and I thought, right, I need to go into my heart. And out of my head, because I was just doing logistics. And as soon as I did, I saw her white pussycat walking across the carpet, and it was a very white, fluffy pussycat. And I'd have been totally allergic to this carpet, because I'm an asthmatic.
Right.
And of course, very fluffy animals, they hook into the carpets.
Yeah.
So actually, and that's the thing, is that often we think, oh, things are going wrong. Well, if we go into our heart, we start to have an understanding often of why, and that actually it's for our best. Even though it may not seem so at the time.
Yeah. I had a very similar experience with buying a scooter.
Okay.
It's just a short story. I wanted to buy the scooter, and every time I came close to sealing the deal, to transferring the money, a friend of mine would get into a scooter accident. This happened 4 times.
Whoa!
And the 4th time, I kind of like, okay, somewhere out there's a message for me. And it's very unfortunate that 4 people had to get accidents to give me this message. But, Spirit was giving me a very clear message, like, if you get that scooter, you're going to get into an accident.
Yeah, and so it could be quite serious.
Yeah. So, Manna, let's go into you, I guess, which is the kind of like the last part of this interview. Let's wrap it up a little bit here. It's like, I guess, how did you come into all of this?
I had psychic experiences and mediumship experiences since I was young, on and off. But often they got me into trouble. So it was normal, but it could be a bit scary because, I think when you're younger, you appreciate it. And you have moments where you appreciate it, and of course moments when it's considered not right. I went to the College of Psychic Studies to do healing. I had no intention of doing that psychic work. And the woman who taught the healings thought that I needed a term off. And I just decided, I didn't want to do the psychic work because my house could be like Piccadilly Circus with kind of energy sometimes. But actually the best thing I ever did was psychic development, because it taught me to shut down, it taught me to say no, it taught me to have control, it taught me to be grounded and centered.
Yeah.
So being ungrounded and centered meant that, you know, I could have all sorts of experiences and not all of them good. But actually grounding and centering it, it's kind of really transformed my life.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, why I'm so kind of clear on what being grounded and centered are and the impact that it can have.
Yeah. And I think that's actually one of the things which I greatly benefited from the college, is that they provide a structure for you. They've done it for a long time, you know, and they really emphasize on the basics. In every development class that I've been there, you know, it's taught to you how to, you know, the chakra system, how to open up, close down, to ground, which are things which are not emphasized as much if you were, say, reading a book about psychic development.
No, I mean, some books do, but I think, you know, that whole thing of how to do it from a very practical step-by-step way is probably not there at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Amanda, it's been a great conversation. Any kind of last words you'd like to mention?
No, but I would say to anyone who hasn't done it, look, to do it, it's natural, it's normal. Our intuition is part of who we are, and don't fear it.
Yeah.
You know, we are beings of love, as you said. Thank you so much, Ken, for having me.
So that's Amanda Robert. I will put links to her website on the description page, and also a link to the College of Psychic Studies, where she teaches. So it's Kenneth Bock with the Unnamed Show.
Yeah, we like that. I think Spirit thinks it's quite funny too.
If you've got comments or questions for Amanda, do leave them in the description, in the comments box. So I hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.
We can start to kind of understand that the way we get our information is through a different way. So let's talk about, because not everyone will know what they are. So clairvoyant, which is kind of like a big label that lots of people know, is when, as the psychic, you see. Okay, so you may see objectively, which is like I'm seeing you now. So I may see spirit like that. In a mediumship I do. Or you may see in your inner eye, which is kind of the most common way. And sometimes you can see into other dimensions.
At the College of Psychic Studies, where she teaches. And today really is the start of a series where I will be interviewing psychics, intuitives, and mediums, and kind of like talking to them about what they do and what is psychic ability, you know, how does it help us in our daily lives, and also how we can harness and train this activity or this ability. So Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very honoured to be your first person. Thank you very much.
So let's start very generally.
Okay.
What's psychic ability?
Well, psychic ability is one of the most natural things in the world because it's our intuition. It's that gut feeling we get. It's that kind of inner knowing, which doesn't make necessarily logical scientific sense. But we learn to trust it, and we learn that kind of we learn to follow it in a way.
Yeah.
I think. So it's that sixth sense that is.
Hello everybody, it's me, Kenneth Bock. Welcome to the show. I haven't got a name for the show yet.
How fab! Great start.
we were going to call it Psychic Ability Explained, but anyway, it's called The Show. I'm here with the lovely Amanda Roberts.
Thank you.
Who is a psychic intuitive medium.
Yeah.
And in many labels, who does many different therapies, and also my teacher.
Talked about a lot.
Yeah.
That people are nervous of, that a lot of people may think they shouldn't trust for different reasons, but that people, when they're in that flow, know they can trust, and that it helps them on a day-to-day level to live their life.
Yeah.
And make it easier.
And this comes in a variety of ways, right? I mean, we talk about the different psychic modalities like clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, and even dreams. So tell us a little bit about how these impulses come to us.